In this video, we're going to take a closer look at editing pages and content inside SharePoint. For today's video, I'm going to use a quick development site that I set up that really is just for the purposes of the video. In it, you can see it is a basic PAWS content page, and that it has a content area. It actually has the right column, as well as navigation and header. So we'll take a quick look at how we edit the page, and then specifically changing page layout, and then the publication workflow model. So editing a page typically should be as easy as hitting the quick edit button. As you can see, that then breaks this out into all the actual zones that are available. I'm going to show a little bit more of how to add and manage web parts in a dedicated video, but just to give a basic layout of this page, I have the metadata, which is the title of this page. I have several web part zones. I have a top web part zone that I can click add a web part, as well as two at the bottom, and a right column web part zone, which actually already has a feed icon as well, or a feed web part, as well as the ability to add another web part. But the most common and probably most important section is going to be the page content section. And this is in 2010 a full, what we call WYSIWYG rich text editor. WYSIWYG stands for what you see is what you get, and so that means whatever I'm looking at this window should roughly translate over to what I'm going to see on the front page. Now obviously there's some structural elements around the page that are going to disappear, such as the lines and the titles of the sections, but it gives you a pretty good idea of what the page is actually going to present when done. The two context tabs that pop up when I'm editing a page that are the most important are format text and insert. So from here, I have the ability to do pretty much anything I can do in Microsoft Word. So I can bold a line, I can actually change the font. I will not change it to Comic Sans. I can make it italics or underline it, or even strike through. And this is all going to render out into good HTML code. The other thing is of special note is these markup styles. These markup styles are your HTML friendly header 1 through 4, as well as a horizontal rule, paragraph tag, and just several presets. So from there I'll set a paragraph tab, and let's say I wanted to put a line between my top 3 titles. I could go to markup style and just add a horizontal rule as such. So you can use a combination of the two based on the governance policy. You'll just want to be careful that you stay within the guidelines that marketing has established. Looking at the other areas of this section, there's basic copy and paste functioning, so I can actually work on content in Word and then paste it in place. You can also paste as plain text. That's key because SharePoint is a part of the Office suite of products, and what that means is that when you're typing in Word and you put styling in, if you make it bold, if you make it a certain font, SharePoint's actually going to try and copy that as best it can. If you don't want that, if you want to use the approved markup styles, then you would want to paste as plain text. There is also a spelling editor, and you can do multiple languages, but just simply clicking it will do a quick spell check. It's probably going to find significant errors as I'm using filler text. Yep, it did not like my Latin at all. So that being said, if you're using English in your page, it should do a pretty good job of catching all that for you. A couple other things as far as highlighting and actually affecting font color. So really all the basic information that you would have and styling available through Word, you also have through SharePoint. Insertion of media is pretty easy. I can actually insert a picture. I'll do the drop down because this is important because you can actually pick a file that's on your computer. I can pull from a web address, so if I had a link to a specific image that I knew it, I could actually put it in there. And lastly, I can actually go out and explore SharePoint and try and find an image to use. So just looking here, if I click inside the Avid Custom, I have all of these different images that I can choose. And by clicking one, I would then input that critical alert bar into my page. So that's inserting pictures. You can do the same with audio and video. The key to that though is in order to avoid using a custom web part, you will have to manage the video and audio through SharePoint, and it will actually be added to the SharePoint database. So before you upload a 500 megabyte video, please be sure and check to make sure that that's okay, because it's going to take a tremendous amount of space actually on the disk. We do have different web parts available from linking into Vimeo and even YouTube, so that might be the preferred source. Another easy function is the linking function. To turn something into a hyperlink, I can simply highlight the text, choose link. I can either link to a page in SharePoint or I can link to a specific address, making sure that I add the http:// or https as needed. And when I do that, that then becomes a clickable link that will take me to that page, and you can see when I have a link present, I can select it, and I now get a third context tab which says links tool. I hit format, and from here I can select the whole link, I can remove the link, I can change the URL, the description, whether it opens in a new tab. So I have basically full control over that. That only appears when I click into the section that is a link. So there's quite a bit you can do just inside the basic page flow. Another thing that you'll have access to once you're logged in is the page layout menu. This is a real important one because there are some preset page layouts. So if you look from article pages, and it'll actually change dynamically based on the page layout I select, and if web parts need to be closed, so this is a full frame, it'll actually close the web part for me, so there was no web part there. However, if I come back into page layout and choose one that has a right column, I now have my page, but you'll notice my web part did not come back. The key to that is that web part is actually not gone. It's actually just closed. So if I hit add web part, at the bottom now I'll see closed web parts, and then I have my test feed, which is the one that was closed. I hit add, and there it is. So we'll talk a little bit more about how to manage and use web parts in the web parts section. So I think this is a good time. I'm done with my page. I'm ready for it to go live. This is a great web page. It's going to be useful to many users. I want to talk real briefly about the SharePoint publishing workflow. So I put together a couple slides just to show. So the first thing I did when I viewed this page and decided I wanted to work with it, I had to check it out. So from this page, I check it out. It's now editable for me and only for me. The key to that is that if I intend for other users to work on this page, I have to remember to check it back in when I'm done. The other option you have is to save the page. The key difference between this is when I save the page, it does save my work in progress, which is very important because I don't want to lose my progress. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't make my changes visible to any other users. So they're not going to see any change on the front side, and it actually is not going to allow them to edit it either. And so what hopefully would happen in that situation is the user would reach out to me and I'd say, oh right, let me go check that in, or oh, no, please don't edit that page. I'm still working on it, because if they automatically override my checkout, I will lose my changes. So once I'm done and I'm ready to either have others work on this page or review this page, I would want to check it in. And once I check it in, there's two key differences between the others. Is it's now editable for anybody who wants to come look at it, and any user who would have the ability to check out and edit this page is actually going to see my changes. But users on the outside are still not. So in all three of these scenarios, checkout page, saved page, and checked in page, the published or the public version of this page has not changed. That would mean that non-approved users and unauthenticated users or anonymous users are still going to see the version of the page that was already published. What's great about that is we can change page layout, we can modify content, we can add web parts and imagery, we can really totally rework these pages, and we can collaborate and share them amongst ourselves by checking them in. And the whole time we're doing this and we're creating this great work in progress, our front-end user is not going to see any of this change. They're going to continue to see the published page. Once we've all had a chance to look at it, we've collaborated, we've made a work of art on the web, we now publish the page, and once that's done, for the first time, all users, including our anonymous users, will see the actual page published as the one we were working on. From there, you can actually unpublish a page, and you can use versioning to roll back to different versions of the page. So for the purposes here, I'm going to go ahead and check it in. Once I check it in, my status bar reads checked in and viewable by all authorized users. So let's say that I logged in as a different user and came to access this page and checked it out. This message will change slightly. The message will say checked in and viewable by all users, but then it'll have a caveat. It'll say, but a version of this page has been checked out to whoever the user is. What that lets me know is that even though I'm actually looking at a version of the page other than what's published, it's still not the most recent, or potentially not the most recent content. Once I publish this page, it then becomes available for all users, and you can see the status bar actually goes away. So that's a good indication that you're looking at a published page, is you don't see a yellow status bar. From here, from editing a specific page, that's really the basics of what you need to know. Creating new pages is almost as easy. So I come into Site Actions, and I go to New Page, and I decide that my new page will be named My New Page, and I create my page. Now this page is automatically created, and it's automatically created as a sibling to the page that I was previously working on. Now what does that mean? Well, I'm going to come into Manage Content and Structure, and I'm going to look in Pages, and from here I'll see my default page and then My New Page. They're in the same folder in the same site level. That's why we refer to them as siblings. To create a page in a different site, for example, if I wanted to create a page in Test 1, I would first need to go to that page, and I would need to create new page here. So once the new page is created, from here I can go to my Page tab, I can choose Page Layout, I can choose Internet Full Right Image, which gives me the ability to go pick a default image from SharePoint, and I can also create custom content as well. My content. It's exciting content. So from here I'll save, and once again, now saving, it's checked out and editable, but if anybody else came here, actually before I've checked in the first version of this page, they would get a 404. Once I've checked it in, edited and saved it, they'll see an old version of the site. So in order to make sure this is editable to all users, I can check it in. I can leave a note, added new content, as such. And this is just a way, when I'm looking through the version history of this page, to see what was done. So I'm going to publish this page. Actually, before I do that, let me check my spelling, which I'll have to check this page out again, and come to page, come to edit. There we go. Now that I've edited, I have my format text, and I choose to check the spelling. No spelling errors found. So this time I'm going to check it in, and I say checked for spelling, just so I have a note of what I've done. It'll also run a basic spell check when you check out and even when you publish. So I'll hit publish, and boom, now my page is published. So now once the page is published, everybody will see it, and if I continue to check it out and work with it, it follows the same rules of the publishing workflow. So the only other thing I really wanted to show from a page editing standpoint is using managed site and content and structure as your kind of basis for working with these pages. It's not necessary to work with it that way, but if you want to access managed content and structure, you get your tree view. You do get a few options that you don't get in the regular front-end editor. For example, if I'm looking in the pages directory, if this page were not checked out to me, I can actually discard their checkout, or I can actually force a publish here. I can also unpublish this version through this menu, but most importantly, I can look at the version history. So if I look at version history, I can see basically every step of the way with this page. So I can see the different changes that I made and the comment I added new content and then the approval. So if there were multiple steps, if there was a long history to this page, and we'll go see if we can find a page that has a pretty decent history. I'm imagining the main communications and marketing probably will. So from here I look in the version history so I can see. So the great thing about this is not only do I see the different phases, but I can see the content that specifically was changed. Now, I've got a bunch of quote-unquote broken images here. All that means is that those images have since been deleted, so it doesn't have the ability to show them to me. So a small limitation. But if I come all the way back to the beginning, I'm looking at real content that's been changed. And you see I'm back to 0.1, all the way up to 19 or even 20.0. So a little bit of how these versioning numbers work. So when you check in but do not publish, every time you check in it's going to increment this number. So for example, if I now take this version of the page and I make minor changes to it and check it in, when I look in the version I'm going to have a 20.1. Every time I publish I get a new primary number. So to check this out again and publish it, I'll be looking at 21.0. So just a little heads up about how that works. Looking back into my site actions, I'll come back into manage content and structure. I also at the page and site level have the ability to create new, just as a, for your IE users, the manage content and structure menu does not work well with IE 10. That's very important to know. If you need to change your browser mode, you can hit F12 on the keyboard and go to any other version of Internet Explorer, and it works significantly better. So now you can see under my new, I've got site, list, or page, so I can create a new page, and all of the page basics now, whereas before I had to open up the page and basically take what was given and set the page layout. So I can call this my other page. I can do a description, so the description doesn't appear to the front-end user. It's only for admins to explain what the page is for, and I can actually change the URL ending as well. So if I didn't want this to be called myotherpage.aspx, I could just have it called other. Lastly, I can go ahead and choose the page layout so that when I create, it should automatically add this page to the pages directory inside Avid Dev. You'll notice it's still draft mode and it's got no previous version, so somebody other than myself would go in and see a 404. But now if I open this link in a new window, I can edit this page and say my content, because I'm not really original. And actually in this case I'm going to go straight to the publishing tab and I'm just going to say publish and call this initial publish. So if you did that to show if you're working on a page and you're ready to go all the way to published and you don't need to check it in, you don't first have to save nor check it in, you can go straight to publish. Just being advised that when you do that, that immediately becomes live, but with page versioning you can always go back to a previous version of the page. So that in a nutshell is some of the basic page content editing. We'll be talking a little bit more about working with web parts, working with lists and libraries, and specifically working with navigation in a later video.